Harry McGuire says this phenomenon of many people working for a corporation is only like 200 years old from what I hear. Yep. Essentially it is. Not even 200 years, actually. I think a little bit less than that. Ever since factory work became like a thing. Wade Emery says, greetings to you, Josh, and the chat. Wade, greetings to you, my friend. Oof, says Christian Soto. Oof, indeed, my friend. Oof, indeed. Ooficus, indeedicus. So people were in different categories, guys, that either felt like, hey, I'm Karen, I'm working in some kind of like job that, and quite frankly, like is a useless job. And if I'm being honest with you guys, and I know this sounds really harsh, and I've said this on other streams before, like a majority of people, if you go and ask them, the job that they're doing is not like the first thing that they would choose to do. Like if you go back, so let's just talk about Karen in HR. Karen in HR, 45-year-old Karen in HR. You guys know the Karen that I'm talking about. If you guys were to go to Karen and say, Karen, when you were 8 years old, what did little Karen want to be when she grew up? Can almost guarantee you it wasn't to be Karen in HR. And we got to be realistic, right? Because not everyone's going to be the thing they wanted to be when they were 8 years old, right? If I was the thing that I would wanted to be when I was 8 years old, I would be the president of the United States right now. But I'm not. However, with that being said, the point is, guys, that people realize that a lot of jobs they were working were either just like really just either a useless job, and they just felt like they were filler. They didn't feel any job security, especially after what had happened with the Crab 19 thing, and or the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze, or a combination of all the above, right? And I'm sure there's many other reasons out there that you guys can think, especially if you were somebody who was in this situation, and you probably have your own reasons as well. But the juice not being worth the squeeze thing. So I want to talk about that for a second. So why all of a sudden was it that these wages and salaries that people were getting paid, suddenly people just started to realize or think to themselves, hey, it's no longer worth working here. I know it's been like years here, but literally the amount of money I'm getting is no longer worth working here. Why was that the case? Well, what else happened right around the time of the Crab 19 pandemic? I probably shouldn't have said that word, but anyway, well, the money printer went burr, right? You get a car, you get $1,200, you get $1,200, you get this for free, you get that for free. There was money everywhere. And why was there money everywhere? Why were we getting the USD airdrops directly deposited to everyone's good boy wallets? Well, because, there really is no real reason as to why they did. There's no real good reason as to why they did that. But essentially, the government ended up, the Federal Reserve and the government ended up essentially deciding to print this massive amount of money into circulation. And what are the consequences of that? If you guys didn't know, but I'm sure most of you guys do know, the consequences of that are inflation. And you can't just print 80% of, or whatever the percentile of the total amount of dollars in existence in 1 year and expect that not to have an inflammatory effect on prices, because this money is going into people's pockets. It's going into corporations. They're paying more people more money. It's going here to there, in and out of markets, et cetera, et cetera. And at the end of the day, when there's more money in the system, there's less of a demand for this thing called money, or really cash, and prices go up. So suddenly, people were realizing that the money that they were getting paid was not really valued at what they were maybe originally getting paid at, even if it was the same rate, if not even a little bit more, in order to go and pay their bills. They just started saying to themselves, like, hey, the juice is not worth the squeeze. It's not worth it to work here. Harry McGuire Jr. says, many people are afraid of making the jump to upskill, do 1099 work, or start their own business. It's very true. Very, very true. And you know what, Harry? A lot of people don't have the ability to do that because they don't really have some kind of skill that they can go and monetize, right? Because we don't really get taught the most useful things in our school system. Prices go up, but never wages unless you learn to code. Yes. Although I do believe wages were going up, but it's like if it costs, and I was listening to a podcast today on this from this channel called Heresy Financial. It's a great channel, by the way. You guys should go and check them out. But he used the analogy I think it was New York, and the average income for a person, or maybe it was a household, was like 50 or 51,000 a year. Let's just say 50. Let's make an even number. And inflation increases prices $4,000 a year more. So, sorry, not the income. The average amount of money that they had to spend to survive was about 50 grand a year. Okay. Inflation basically bumped that up to $54,000, which doesn't seem like a lot, right? But in the scope of things, it actually does end up being a lot of money. And he was saying, yeah, wages went up a little bit too, but wages only went up $2,000, enough to cover that $2,000, that $4,000 difference. And so there's still like a $2,000 difference, which is actually the most difference. The percentage wise, apparently, is the largest percentile difference in this situation since like the 1970s, which is a big deal, guys. It's a big deal. So, people decided they can no longer they can't afford, if they can't afford to live or pay for their basic needs in life, then why are they working for this place if it's just not worth the squeeze? They're literally expending their life energy. And some people say, well, I can't pay my bills. I can't go and do these things that I want to do. I can't save money. And at the same time, I'm losing my time on top of that to go and work at these places. So what the fuck am I doing? Why am I even doing it? I already can't pay my bills. At the very least, what I could do is I could quit my job. I still can't pay my bills, so I'm still in that same situation, but at least I have the freedom to go and do something else or go do something that I want to do.